The Republican Party seems to be splitting over the response to the FBI's search of Mar-a-Lago. On one hand, you have some Trump allies telling Republicans to tone down their aggressive criticism of the Justice Department, according to the New York Times, because it is possible more damaging information related to the search will become public. Then, on the other hand, it has infuriated many of the former president's supporters. Even among elected officials, Republican Congress members have called to defund and even abolish the FBI as the Bureau's offices face violence and intimidation. Joining me now to discuss all this and more is Democratic Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California. Welcome back to the show, Congresswoman. How concerned are you about the rhetoric being used by your Republican colleagues, specifically surrounding the FBI? And does it match what they're saying in private?
Well, Simone, thank you again for having me on your show. And I just have to tell you, I love your show because you do a deep dive on so many issues and are educating the public in a big way. So thank you. You know, first of all, the hypocrisy is very clear. And I just have to say, when a black man gets killed by law enforcement, majority of Republicans believe any justification, without even due process. I mean, they just believe it happened and it's the right thing to do. But yet, when Donald Trump is accused of alleged crimes, they come up and say, defund the FBI. And so the hypocrisy is glaring. And it's shocking to me that they would believe that this man is above the law. No one's above the law. And I looked at the layout of what you presented a few minutes ago in terms of the laws around classified documents. I mean, we have to comply with the law. If you don't, you have to face the consequences. And evidently, the Republicans who believe that Donald Trump shouldn't have to pay the consequences or be accountable really I question their understanding of democracy and the rule of law. I guess they just don't care anymore.
I mean, I think what Senator Amy Klobuchar said this morning bears repeating. Donald Trump is not the king. The law is king. Congresswoman, there's so many facets of this conversation and a broader conversation, frankly, about this right-wing rhetoric and the real-world consequences. I am just struck by the fact that the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security, they have reported that there's been a spike in threats to law enforcement after the search. I think it is undeniable that rhetoric has consequences. But do you think that some of your colleagues insist on escalating this type of language, understand that implicitly? Do you think they believe it's just all social media and it's not them?
I think they understand it, but I don't think they care. Hate speech leads to hate violence. And we know that the #1 national security threat is domestic terrorism, which is fueled by white supremacy. Do they care? Do they know? Their behavior tells me that they really don't care, and that's the danger of this. When you have people who are elected to public office and really just throw away the rule of law and create an environment where they want people to believe these lies, that just opens up the box in terms of the rule of law not being ever adhered to, and it's almost like anarchy. And so it's a very dangerous moment, Simone. We have to continue talking about it, but we have to really recognize that domestic terrorism fueled by white supremacy is what the highest national security threat is now, and we have to be very careful and let the Justice Department continue these investigations so that they can bring to justice those who perpetrated not only January 6th, where I was sitting during that violent attempted coup, but also what has been, happening in our country for many, many years.
Yes, this is not new. I have been saying, Congresswoman, that there were two big stories this week. And the other big story of this week was the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act. So I want to talk about that with you now. It is on its way to President Biden's desk. You and 219 of your colleagues voted in favor of it. What is something that is in this bill that you think is not being discussed enough?
Well, I tell you, this was a major victory. It was a major struggle to get to this point because we have such a narrow margin in both the House and the Senate. But I tell you, one thing in the bill that I hope people understand is that senior citizens now will have only a $2,000, they will have a $2,000 limit on the prescription drugs. Many of our seniors pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for their prescription drugs. Also, hopefully, the $35 ceiling on insulin drugs for Medicare recipients. Hopefully, people will understand that this is a big deal because our seniors spend a lot of money on these life-saving drugs, but what we have to continue to fight for is those that don't have Medicare and those that have private insurance and those that don't have insurance at all. They deserve to have a $35 cap because their lives are just as important as any with insurance and Medicare. But also, I think what we also need to recognize is that it does reduce inflation. And I didn't realize this until we started negotiating and working on this, but 40% of inflation is fueled by fossil fuels. And so what we're doing now is moving forward quickly, I must say, not quick enough for some of us, but quickly toward, a green economy, creating good paying jobs. And I hope that our communities know that these jobs in wind and solar and all of the energy efficient jobs that are going to emerge out of this with our small minority and women owned businesses will be a real plus in terms of not only our climate, but getting our climate under control and beating back climate change in a way that has to happen because the planet is burning. But we have to make sure that our community invests and gets and benefits from those resources in terms of the economic activity that's going to emerge from this.
It is a huge deal. Congresswoman Barbara Lee, thank you very much. We will have you back because this conversation about abortion is ongoing, and I know we didn't get to that today, but we're gonna talk about it. It's key to the midterms. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to win, and people are going to vote for their personal liberties and personal freedoms. And thank you very much, Simone.
Thank you.